It's like croutons in a soup.
Don't turn down any opportunity, whether it's a camp, a clinic, because you never know literally who's watching.
Make your own decision and stick with them and know they're the right decisions, right? And even if they aren't right, don't regret them.
He didn't know creatine existed.
So you got some creatine? He's like, oh, yeah. Lift heavyweight.
Shipped across the border.
I shipped across the border.
Shipped across the border, man.
Welcome back to Shipped Across the Border.
What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Shipped Across the Border. My name's Max. I'm here with Chris, and today we have a special episode for you guys. Head strength and conditioning coach for Elms College Athletics, Coach Joe. He worked at... What the hell are you doing?
I'm sign languaging the word Joe.
He formerly worked at University of North Florida and University of Florida, working with Olympians in track and field, in swimming, and he worked with, he said, slam ball, and a bunch of different professional sports, and super high-level athlete, amazing guy, and now we have the privilege of him here helping our Elms College athletics teams, and he's going to instill a lot of knowledge and lessons. He hiked the Appalachian Trail,
which we just figured out on the episode. We're recording this afterwards.
He said 2,200 miles from
5
Georgia
months.
to Maine in 5 months, just living off of beef jerky and putting one foot in front of the other. So he's an amazing guy with an amazing story, and we got a good episode for you guys. So enjoy, and we'll see you guys in the episode.
Like and subscribe.
Yep. Coach Joe, welcome to the ship. Much anticipated episode. So what's going on? How are you this morning?
Yeah, doing good. This is awesome. Thanks for having me here. No, this is really cool. So it's good that you guys are doing this, like podcasts. Actually, I think it's awesome. Like, I listen to podcasts daily. Mm-hmm. Like, I do it for a lot of reasons, to learn more, to learn from people from different fields, like just to get how people get to where they're at. I think podcasts are fantastic, or one of the best tools you could use.
What type of fields do you look into, other than obviously strength and conditioning, which we'll get into?
Yeah, so I listen to, I challenge myself every day. I kind of flip back and forth between strength, so not just the science behind it, because there's a lot of that out there. You can learn a lot about the science, but then also the people, how they got to where they're at, which is awesome. And you'll see that as we get into it, you'll see that my path is way different from people who are doing it now, but everybody kind of has their own path, but it's good to see where other people are at. And then I also listen to a lot of mindset stuff, a lot of mental development. So I kind of switch back and forth.
We'll get into that after.
Do you have anyone you listen to specifically?
On the mindset stuff?
All of it.
All of it? No, so I bounce around. So there are podcasts that I listen to more than others. But I kind of, there's not one go-to person. I will say Impact Theory, that's Tom Bilyeu.
Yeah.
He's the guy that founded Quest Bar and all that. His mindset stuff's really good. So yeah.
Chris listens to a lot of Alex Hormozi. He actually has a life-size body pillow of Alex Hormozi.
I don't.
Not actually, but
I did put a few of his quotes on my wall, though. I think his stuff is really good. Do you listen to him?
I know who he is, but
he was sleeping in his. He had sleeping on the floor of his gym
business
for
guy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Big mindset guy. I like his stuff a lot.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about how you got to the path you're in now, because I know you didn't always start off in the strength and conditioning path.
Yeah. So I'll try to be fast because it's a long story, but basically, I was in finance, so I worked in finance. I know you're kind of in that field, trying to learn more about it.
Definitely.
So I did that for a while, but to be honest, once COVID hit and we had to go work at home, and then we had to go back, I was dreading just going back to work. You'll see, with me, it's and we'll talk over the book, but it's that. At the end of the day, and I even tell Coach this, it's the work you put out there, you have to be able to go to bed knowing that you had a full day of work. I think where a lot of restlessness, because I've been there, happens is because you're leaving stuff and work you could have done. So your last thought before you could go to bed is, dang, I could have done this, I could have done that, I could have done this. And now that's the last thought you go to bed is thinking of all the shoulda, coulda, and woulda. I didn't want that feeling anymore, you know. And same thing with the first thought, you know, like snooze, snooze, snooze. It's like no, get up, let's get to work. So like this morning, I lift before my teams. Like that's just something that I do from a mindset view to get my day going, knowing that I started off my day with getting work done. And
How early were you awake this morning?
Oh, like 4 o'clock. I was up. Yeah, I was up at 4. We had a lift this morning with one of the teams, so I made sure to get my lift in because I don't want. Again, it's more of being of action. I don't want any team, just in general, or anybody I work with, to think that I'm not putting in the work also, and I'm just telling you what to do, right?
I respect that a lot.
So if I have a team lift at 6 a.m. and they go, Coach, 6 a.m. is way too early. There's no one out there that lifts this early. Not true, because I just did it an hour before you. So that's out of the question. So now we can't debate that. We can move on and get the work in.
What time do you go to bed at?
Oh, like 9, 10 o'clock, somewhere between there.
Do you track your sleep?
I do not.
Okay.
You need a Whoop.
Say you need a Whoop.
I don't know, man. Are you guys trying to get a sponsorship from Whoop or something?
I would love to, but yeah, I love Whoop for that. But I was going to say that, speaking of Alex Hormozy, he has a quote about potential where he says, if you have all this unused potential, it will eat you alive until you do something with it. And that's why he decided to go in the path of the gym and stuff like that. And that's definitely a parallel with what you're talking about there.
Exactly. So that's like back to like another quote. Like, so the quotes are great. I know everybody has whatever quotes that they have, but like the big thing is, all right, cool. It's a good quote, but are you testing that quote? Are you seeing if that quote even has value? Mm-hmm. So like one that kind of stuck out with me is Tony Robbins. Like everybody knows him as this like, you know, motivational guru, whatever. But he has a quote, or he kind of says like, if you want to be happy, grow, right? So find something you're growing in. Like people don't like to be not doing anything. So that's why like I think some of the things you hear, and I'll preface everything too before we get too far down here, is these thoughts, you know, are just my thoughts, right? Like this isn't, you know, like the end all be all. Like I'll be curious in like 10 years. Like I might laugh at some of the things I'm saying now, but that's why like we're here. Like we're part of this world. Like we're evolving, we're growing, we're trying to learn. Mm-hmm. And the best thing you can do is look back. But back to what I was saying is, you know, with growth, challenges. Like, so if you want to be happy, grow. Like, try to grow in something. I guarantee you'll probably be happy, whether it's in the weight room, on the court, in a podcast, right? If you find out you have 10 more viewers, that probably makes you pretty happy, right? Because you gained something, right? But you had to put the work to get there. So I think that's something that, like, I would challenge anybody out there, like, go ahead and put that to the test and see if it works.
I think there's no better segue than to just get into the book that's just about that in general and growth and achieving goals and mindset and everything like that.
Are you going to preface what the book is for everyone
We did
listening?
on the last episode. It's honestly, I don't remember what it's called. It's called like
The Growth Mindset?
It's called Mindset by Carol Dweck. So this book literally changed I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that book, to be honest. So I hiked the Appalachian Trail. It's the only hike I've ever been on my entire life. I've only been on one hike, and it was from Georgia to Maine. And that's it. But I literally
Georgia
to Maine.
That's like
2,200 miles.
Was it at 4 a.m?
Well, some days I woke up at 4 a.m.
Did you do it by yourself?
by myself.
Where'd you get food?
Find it. Go. You. Sometimes you have to go in these towns and grab food and.
Kill some rabbits?
No, I didn't do anything like that. You see some bears. You do see them.
Why did you decide to do that?
So again, like I was at a point in my life, like crossroads, right? Like we're all gonna have them. We all have them in different points. Some sooner, some further on down the road. And there's, you know, like if you want to grow, if you want to learn, like you do hard things, right? Like, and sometimes you have to do very hard things. And I was at a point where it's like, I'm going to put this book to the test. So every bad thought I had, I try to flip it. Every like, oh, today's the worst, whatever. No, it's not. I'm choosing to be here. I'm choosing to be on this trail. I'm going to finish this. And it was just a mindset. I just wanted to see. I didn't train for it. I've never been around. I'm from Florida, so I don't know if we mentioned that, but I'm from Florida. There are no mountains in Florida. The first mountain I ever seen in my life, besides flying over them, hiking, was day one of the Appalachian Trail. And that was it.
Did you prepare beforehand?
You do. So you read, you research. So podcasts were great. There's podcasts for it, and you can learn from others' mistakes, but that only gets you so far. But what you realize throughout it is, like, we don't, as people, like, give ourselves enough credit for what we're able to do, like the capacity that we have, right? So, like, if you don't test yourself, you don't know. Like, so, like, even in, like, the weight room, like, you're probably stronger than you think. But, so, like, the biggest thing is you're putting yourself, yes, it's kind of extreme, but you learn to survive. And then you eventually, that just surviving turns into thriving, right? Now you're like, all right, I came up with this system. I'm in it. Like, now I know what to do if this situation comes up. But again, it's back to the preparation you've had, the work you've done. And, like, right, there is something different between being reckless, right? Like, you're just going in there blind and not prepared for anything. Like, that's different, right? But I do think, like, it is good to do hard things, because think about anything for you, like the hardest thing you've ever done. It's probably one of the most rewarding things you've ever done, right? And it's not because it was easy, it's because it was hard, right? So, like, that's why I like, to be honest, that's part of the reason why I love being in the weight room, because you're always doing hard stuff. You're always trying to grow.
How long did that take you?
5 months.
You just in complete isolation for 5 months.
I mean, you meet people, interesting people from all over the world, like, people. So, like, when I did it, it was right after COVID. So anybody from, like, Europe who was waiting to do this trail, like, so it's a thing, like in international, like, there are people that want to hike the AT. So it was right after COVID, so they got clearance. So I met people from all over the world that were hiking this trail, but not everybody makes it. It's only like about I think it's like 1 in 4 make it. So your odds are actually pretty low.
Make it isn't like they drop off; they don't die.
No, yeah, nobody dies. No. So literally, as in, like, they start in Georgia and they end in Maine.
What was that feeling like when you crossed that? I don't know. Is it a finish line?
Final
is it
mountain?
like a boundary? Is it like?
So I told myself, because here's what happens next for a lot of people. They get, after they complete it, they get borderline, like kind of depressed. Like, all they think about is that, and they can't get back to, like, their life. So I told myself, I'm not going to be defined by doing it. That I want to take the lessons from it, and that's what I'll have. And I'll take that with me wherever I go. So whether it's into coaching or whatever, because you learn so much about yourself. You're by yourself. Like, there are people around, but there are days you're 20 miles, you're in the woods, and you don't see a soul. And it's just you and yourself.
Drop some of those lessons on us.
Yeah.
What are 2 or 3 of them that you kind of carry with you every day?
So, like, one is I can, and it changes. Like, every day will be something. I feel like I've learned, everything I've taken. But, like, so, for example, I can tell if someone was going to quit by the way they talk. And what I mean by that is, you would see, there'd be times where you'd be coming down the mountain and, you go into your shelter for the night, and some guy would come in, throw his bags off. Oh, today was the hardest day ever. It was brutal. I'm never doing that again. All right. But sure enough, he'd wake up and do it. But then day 2, you would see that guy. Oh, man, it was so hard. It was brutal. Man, what a terrible day. Day 3 comes. He's gone. But I was hiking in the same day. I was hiking the same trail. I'm still going. So what you say to yourself matters. Like, so that was like a huge one. And then the other thing, it's like, people would say the weather would get to you. If it rains, you're like, oh, man, this is depressing. The weather. It's like, oh, man, the forecast said this, but it said it rained all day. Then you realize, like, things aren't supposed to be anything, right? like you can't control that stuff, right? So you control what you can control, and that's how you decide to approach it. That's what you can control. It's like that was a big one too. So like if someone says, "Oh," so like my ears, I actually had this talk with Coach Pish. Like when someone says, "I can't," "Oh, I can't do that." That's whatever. My ears perk up because I'm like, "All right, cool." It's not that you can't do it; is you're choosing not to do it. But I'll go ahead and put in the work. I don't mind. Like, "Oh, that's impossible." It's like, all right, I already know. Like, I got something on him. Like, if we're trying to compete in something, like, all right, cool. If you're talking like that, so that's where we get in. So we mentioned the book. Let's go back to the book.
I was gonna say, like, did you read the book before or
I read the book before. Like, I would never have hiked the trail if I didn't read the book. So we'll go over the book because I want to ask Max some questions.
Some stuff.
Yeah, that was kind of the plan. That was the whole reason I'm here is to go over this book. So I'll flip it. So what were your takeaways from the book?
There was a lot. I think that the book really highlighted like the different, like how you can naturally think like, oh, this happened to me, and like the kind of like the natural way your human brain like can like debrief situations, and like it falls to the negative, and there are ways you could consciously, like you said, like turn those negative thoughts into positive thoughts, or look at things of failure as opportunities of growth. And it takes a lot of practice, but like there are definitely ways to do that, and the results of doing that are really powerful. And then it gives a lot of examples of like different athletes who have had X failures and have overcame them, but it also gives examples of a tennis player who like just never reached his potential, and he constantly broke his racket, or like business owners who thought they were defined, like you said, like by their like glory, like they turn around one business and now they go to another business and they think that they're the best thing in the world, and that doesn't work out, and they end up committing suicide or something like that because their ego can't handle the fact that they weren't able to live up to the success that they once did, or they speak to people in a negative way because they think they're above them. And so it's just highlighted a lot of things for me. Also, like, highlighted how success can be a really good thing, obviously, but if you're praised for your natural ability and a final outcome as opposed to the process it took there, it can be a negative thing. Like achieving something can be negative to the rest of your life and process if you're not praised and you're not taking the right things from it. Those are 2 or 3 of the bigger things that I took from it.
Anything on that?
I was going to ask you about the Appalachian Trail again before we do that.
Yeah.
Is that the hardest thing you've ever done in your life?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it's hard is such a interesting word because it's all like in perspective, right? Like, so like, yeah, I could say yes, but I know things are going to be harder, right? Like, I know like there's a long life to live. Like, there's like things. So what it gave me more than anything is, like I said, like I'm aware of like, it gave me like kind of what Max was just saying. It's like, it's not the outcome. It was the process that I had. And they have a saying on like the trail, hike your own trail, like, or hike your own hike. Because there are things that I did that maybe you're hiking and doesn't make any sense. Like, why is Joe doing that? Like, I would never do something like that. Like, that doesn't make any sense at all. But I made it the whole way. And then I might look at you and say, like, what is he doing? But then he still made it too. So, like, the biggest thing is, like, yeah, things are hard. Life is hard, but it's all in, like, perspective. And it's all, like, all right, yes, okay, yeah, it was hard, but what's my process? Like, what works for me? Like that's why, like, I'm not scared. So I worked in finance, but, like, to switch careers, like, the AT gave me where I have a process where I know I can be successful in it, and it's something I care about, and I know it's going to take, I'm not a younger kid. I'm not in my 20s. I'm older. So I'm starting a career later in life, but I know that the things that I've learned gave me a system in how to do hard things in general. Mm-hmm. So if there's no challenge that I'm scared of. Like, because I have a system, because I've been there, I put myself in there. And it's like, all right, if I could do this, like, what else can I do? Like, all right, like, if something, fortunately, like, things will happen in life. Like, I'm probably going to lose a loved one at some point, you know? Like, those things are going to happen. Like, it's just life. It's just who we are, you know? Like, but it gives me a system on how to handle those things. And that's what, like, the book was big on. Like, the giving you, like you heard Max, like, it wasn't, like, the result. It wasn't, like, oh, instant, here it is, and that's it. It's like, no. You have to see it, change it, and then act on it, and then develop a system.
Another thing that the book kind of talked about, and we kind of talked about it on our last episode, we kind of, because it was something that was on my mind, but like genius or natural ability. Mm-hmm. And it kind of explained how someone who is blessed with genius and natural ability often makes it a lot less far than someone who, like you said, like exposes themselves to tough things and challenges and is constantly focused on growth in the process. Because at a young age, if you're just told you're a genius, whatever, like you're not gonna go and try things that are difficult because you don't want that label stripped from you. If you pride yourself as a 7-year-old on being a genius and all the math questions in class are easy, why would I do 10th grade work and potentially risk having that title stripped of me? And so that mindset can kind of be a detriment, even though it's supposed to be like a praise. Mm-hmm. That was another big thing that I think the book talked about, especially with like development and youth.
Have you met anyone else who's successfully hiked the Appalachian Trail?
Besides the people that I hiked with.
Or did you keep in contact with those people that you met on the hike?
So I am not on any kind of social media at all. And here's my thought process on that. I get it. That's crazy to say.
Well,
here.
I mean, coming from my parents don't have phones. We communicate strictly through email. Like they don't have social media at all. Like I'm kind of coming from that background too.
I have a very intentional reason why.
Okay.
And it's because I want, right? It's great. Like social media, like, is awesome for a lot of reasons. But for me, I want the relationships that I have with people to be genuine, right? Like super genuine. Like, and it's that face-to-face person. It's having that face-to-face talk. It's having that, I get it. Like I won't be able to reach people all across the country. I'll, maybe not blow up. But here's the thing. It's like, think about like basketball, recruiting, or sports in general. If you're good at what you do, like people will find you, right? Like if you're putting in the work, people will respect it. Like people will know. So like I make sure that the relationships that I have with people, I try to make them as tight as possible because, yeah, I don't have a lot of friends, but the friends that I do have, I know I can call them. So like places that I've worked at to get to here, like every school I've been at, those relationships that I have are strong relationships that I can call those people and say, hey, coach, like I'm having this problem, or hey, coach, like I'm looking for a job, you know anybody, or whatever, and we have that relationship. Versus sometimes it's like, oh, I know that guy, but he's kind of distant through another guy, and it's not really like anything that deep. Mm-hmm. So like that's kind of my rationale behind it. Like, am I aware that like, yeah, there's a lot out there, truly, but like I said, my days are pretty full, and I can go to bed pretty good.
So do you have a phone or no?
I do have a phone.
Okay.
Yeah. So I do have a phone. Do have email. Do have text messages and those things. But you won't see me on IG or something like that.
So was that a conscious choice? Did that happen before or after the Appalachian Trail?
It happened after.
Okay. So you had been on Instagram, been on Snapchat?
I had Instagram because I wanted to put pictures of all the places that were there and all that, and family wanted to follow and know where I'm at. So it was just easy to take pictures. Hey, I'm at this mountain. Hey, I'm here. But to be honest, I don't even remember all the names of the mountains or anything like that. It's just
the lessons you learned along the way.
Just the lessons you learned. Like if you showed me pictures of all the different mountains, I couldn't even tell you which one's which. And actually, Coach Pish is a big hiker and stuff, and I'm like, oh, I remember that place. He's like, no, that's the wrong place, man. I was like, oh, okay. So it's like, yeah, you don't take that stuff with you. It's what you learned.
I want to stay on the topic of the book before we kind of go on to where you were before this. We talk about that. You have any other questions for me? I feel like I was going to be on the hot seat.
Yeah, so No,
I was preparing for like
preparing.
a, what do you call it?
Well, let's go. What were you preparing? What did you think I was going to ask? We'll go with that.
Well, as I was reading the book, because when you gave me the book, you said I want you to read this. I want you to read it in a month, and I want to have a conversation after. So as I'm reading it, like I'm trying to think like to remember as much of the information as possible because it is like a 300-page book, and so I'm not going to remember every story, every chapter. But I was trying to grasp at the big things and just kind of keep that with me for the conversation. So I was kind of prepared for anything about that you're going to throw my way.
Okay, so you mentioned your biggest takeaway, right? So like, why is that your biggest takeaway? Like, why is that important to you?
So the biggest takeaway for me was definitely the natural talent thing and someone with a growth mindset will go farther than someone with natural talent but a fixed mindset. And I think that's just because the place that I'm in today as a college basketball player, as the captain of a college NCAA basketball team, you would not have predicted if you knew me 6 years ago. And like for my whole life, especially as an athlete, I was never naturally gifted, never naturally talented. It's everything that I've been able to become as a product of consistent hard work and discipline and waking up early and going to bed late and finding time in a busy schedule to get a work in so I can go to sleep at night, like you said before, and reflect and be like, I got my work in today. Like I put a penny on the scale. I put one drop in the bucket. And all of those is of the place I'm in today. And obviously, of course, it's not where I would like to be going forward. And I know there's so much room for improvement. And I know I have so much more left to accomplish and left to give to this program. But the place I'm in today is an accumulation of all of those drops over a super long period of time. And so that's why it kind of stuck out to me, that chapter. It's because I come from the not talented, but super focused on the positive and the process kind of mindset.
Who says you don't have talent?
I don't say I don't have talent, but not as naturally talented as a lot of the people that I'm in the room with.
But like, so here's, and I've told the basketball team this, like, there's not a switch, right? Like these guys, the NBA guys, there are, yes, you're right, like their talent, yes, genetics have a lot to do with it. But at the end of the day, it's right, like you're playing teams, you know, the few games we've won by very thin point spreads. Games we've lost, some of the games we've lost by very thin point spread. But if you're looking just at the game, like that's not the growth mindset, right? It'd be like, okay, my thought is, well, what did we do? Like, right, me as a strength coach, well, what did I do that might have impacted that game? Did the warm-up, you know, was the warm-up not good? Or do we need to have them, like, this is kind of like, and I get it, like, athletes don't think about these things, but this is where, like, coaches come up, because the one thing you want is to see your team getting better, and then the dubs, the wins come from the process. So it's, you know, I'm always thinking, like, researching, reading, doing something. It's like, well, what could I do to impact, even though I didn't put the ball in the court, I didn't do anything, I guarantee you there is something that I probably made a difference throughout that week that might have contributed slightly to that L that maybe could change and may have a different impact, right? So, like, as coaches, like, you're always kind of tweaking, right? Like, you're always kind of doing what you can within your framework of how you're successful. And back to, like, that switch, you know, whether you're LeBron, Kobe, doesn't matter who you're a fan of, yes, they're very gifted, but we've all heard the stories, right? Like, you go and try to outshoot Kobe. So, like, actually, I had this thought this morning because I knew I was going to talk to you. You know, it's like, I don't think guys realize, like, yeah, they're doing extra work, but it's like you're satisfied just by the fact that you did extra work, right? Like, it's like, okay, cool, I did the extra work, I'm good. But are you, like, being intentional in the work that you're doing? Are you making sure that you're doing it? Because guess what? Like, other colleges are doing extra work too, you know? Like, so you've heard the stories of Kobe outworking everybody that went in there, but that's like hours and hours on end. So, like, if you're going to come in for an hour, get the extra work in, well, like, what kind of work are you doing? You know, like,
me personally, I'm extremely intentional.
Good.
With the way that I go about extra work. I always say, like, I'm not going to be the person that's going to be you're in the gym for 17 hours a day. I'm not going to be the person that's like, especially not going to be posting on social media, but I'm going to be the guy that's in the gym for his hour every single day for the entire year, 365 days, everything, compound that. And so I feel like, and that's worked for me. I feel like people who go in, put 1 week of 5 hours of work extra day and then 2 weeks of rest, and it's not as easy to grow that way, and it's not as conducive to just doing 1 hour, hour and a half, but every single day and stacking those days. So that's kind of been my mindset, but I'm super intentional with the way I go about it, down to like how I catch the ball and rotate the ball to the seams before I shoot it. Every shot I shoot, I work on shots that I would be getting in the game. So like, for example, that day versus Mitchell, where I came in and hit back-to-back threes to kind of really bring us back in that game, like that first three I hit off the elevator screen, like I was in the gym that morning working on that same shot, working on how I was down to how I was rotating the ball to the seams when I catch it, how I was squaring my shoulders and my feet to the basket on the catch because I'm not as good coming off of the left side where I get the pass. So I was working on squaring my hips and everything like that, working on focusing on the back of the rim from readjusting because I have to focus my eyes from catching the pass from my left side too. So I'm very, very intentional about that.
Your breath.
I do it. So I do a lot of during the game or like during when I'm working out. I'm not as much focused on my breath.
So like during the game, right? The idea should be for you to be at the preparation's done so that you can play the game. Mm-hmm. You're not thinking the game, right? Because if you're thinking, you're probably moving slow, right? Like you're probably not moving that fast. So that's what all the preparation is. That's what all the, the scouting, the whatever, the sleeping, the eating, all that stuff. That's when you need to be mindful of what you're doing. Be nitpicky about your footwork. Be nitpicky about what you're doing. Even like a warm up, right? Like do those things during. And then when you get to the game, your preparation has kind of done a lot of the work for you, and you can just play the game. It is a game. It is play, right? Like you're not working the game. You're playing the game. So if you're not doing that, then that tells me that you probably didn't do what you probably could have done leading up to that.
I think that intentionality that you just talked about definitely resonates with me because we just had a podcast where we were talking about effort versus effortlessness. And I brought up how we're 88 episodes deep into a podcasting career, if you want to call it that. And for the first 80-something episodes, I thought that improvement just happened from showing up. And then I realized that after I listened to a few other podcasts that I wasn't being super intentional with going back and listening to podcasts and trying to figure out where I have my likes, my ums, all this stuff. And since I started doing that, it's become a lot easier to see the progress happen. And you stop focusing on the views as much because you can't control that. So like every podcast is a chance to get better. And same in the weight room. Like I work out with Ben, who didn't make the team this year, but before this year, he wasn't really working out in like a way where you measure your reps, focus on the form, make sure you're progressive overloading over time and all that stuff. And since we started doing that, like the results have just exploded. Like it's been crazy. And so like since I've seen this intentionality happen throughout multiple areas of my life, I've seen a lot more progress happen.
And that's what I love. Like, so I'm glad I'm in the weight room's like my happy place. Like everybody, like people at basketball, we have different things. Like the weight room's my place. But what happens in the weight room? Actually speaking, like while you're actually lifting, you're getting weaker. Like you actually are. You don't like keep going up in weight. You basically start to fall apart. But if you do the right things, what happens next? Then you do get that growth. You do get that improvement. But if you come in and you don't challenge your body like that and you just do things you can do super easy, nothing changes. That's where you hear the complaints. Oh, this isn't working. Like I haven't been doing it, the weight room, you won't get results there. Well, have you challenged yourself? Have you done hard things? Have you grown from it? Like that, people love the weight room because they see growth, but it's not instant growth. So you might notice somebody one day who's all of a sudden like, whoa, okay, that person got really in shape. That person will tell you it took a lot of work to get there. And that's the thing. There's not I think everybody's always looking for some magic thing to get you from 0 to 100. It's not. It's 0. To get to 100, from 0 to 100, you got to get to 1. You got to get to 2. You got to get to 3. You got to work your way up. That's the thing that And then that's where like the magic actually is getting there. But that's just my little like spiel, like things people need, I think like think about more.
I want to talk about how you kind of got here, but before we get here, you had you had a very interesting, like, people you've worked with in Florida, at the University of Florida. It's a lot of high-level athletes. So I want you to talk a little bit about that. Like, from my understanding, you worked with some Olympians, you worked with some of the best of the best.
Yeah, I interned, so like strength and conditioning, like, so this is all happening within, I'll put like a little time perspective. Worked in finance, then quit, hiked the AT, while I was on the AT, I was actually applied to go back to school, and then my original thought was to get into PT, but then I had a talk, actually like had a kind of a debate, and then a professor and the students like, you sound like a strength guy, you should go talk to the strength coach. So then I applied for an internship in the spring. So that's at University of North Florida. They're lower Division I. So I've lived in Florida my entire life. So this is actually my first. Well, we'll continue. But so University of North Florida, and then from there, that summer I went to, one of the coaches got hired at UNLV, so in Las Vegas. So I lived in Vegas first summer, learned from there. Worked with slam ball. That's like the trampoline, the dunking thing. Really cool. Worked with some amazing jumpers. Like, these guys had like world record like verts, and they're big. Like, some of them are like professional dunkers. Like, so I didn't know that was a thing, but it was really cool to work with them and kind of see things. And then from there, fall interned at University of Florida, and then at Florida. Great coaches, actually great people everywhere I've been. It's different. It's different there. You know, it's excellence is expected. You see greatness every day, and it's, you know, yeah, it's cool to like, you know, name drop. I'm not going to name drop the athletes I was around, but it's what you can take away from those athletes to see the best at what they do, and just little nuggets of how they conduct themselves, how they challenge each other, how they go about their business. And it is different. Like, you can notice them. You walked into the weight room and saw all these athletes, you'd be like, that guy is an Olympian. And you just know. Like, and it's because there's little things that they're doing. And if that's like, so I try to take those things and even try to like remind you guys or instill it on you, like, I don't expect you to be an Olympians, but there are takeaways from the best of the best. Like, there are.
What are some of those takeaways?
So like the biggest thing is everything matters, right? If your career is based on a time, right? Well, some of these guys, their careers are based off less than 10 seconds. Their entire livelihood.
Yeah, that's track, that's swimming, that's...
Yeah, those were, so I was around track and swimming. Like, but all the work it takes for that 10 seconds, not everybody would want to do that. And that's why they are where they're at. I guess there's some God-given talent, and there's a understanding, not just with them, the athlete, but like the support staff around them, like all that. They know the importance of it. And every fraction of a second matters for these people. This is whether they have a livelihood or not.
Yeah.
Is one of the things that you think allowed them to do that was their intentionality? That's one of the things you picked up on as well?
Absolutely, yeah. So, and here's kind of what I've picked up, and someone might, I don't know, people might disagree or not. It's, you know, like, these people, they're normal people. You don't see yourself as great, right? Because then you're not being humble, right? So it's like, you know, like, they're just putting in the work. They're just being good people, putting in the work. Like, that's all they're doing. And they know that, all right, if I'm competing against you and you're not doing fully what you can, and even if that's a difference of a 2.5 pound plate or a slightly better technique or stretching a little bit better, recovering better, eating better, you know, cool. You want to go eat your KFC? Go eat KFC, man. I'm going to eat healthy, and I know I'm gonna get you when it counts. Like that's like the mindset. Like we all know there's levels to this thing, and that's kind of like the big thing that you see. And there's respectfulness. There's that they're good people. Like, yeah, it was an awesome experience to be around that.
Did you run into any like assholes while you were there? Like because there's like University of Florida, like we were talking about before, like every single one of their teams other than like you said women's basketball is in like the top 10, like either preseason poll or current season. Like it's a place of like excellence, like super high level.
Yeah.
So sure there's got to be some people in the fixed mindset who think they're better than other people.
I think you'll have that with younger people just in general, and even probably me. Like, there's always room to grow. I will say, like, something I always challenge teams, the coach that I like. So I'm reflecting now. I'm thinking to myself, like, what coach do I want to be? And, like, the biggest thing with that is, yes, there are those kind of people. But you want to be in an environment where, one, you're accountable, right? You're like, all right, cool. Like, my job's to make sure we get the work in. I want to put out what's best for you. Because, right, if I don't do everything that I can to know that I'm putting the best, like, getting back to, like, have I gotten better, right? Coach always talks about that. So, like, with people like that, do I have the perfect answer? No. But my first thought is you would want to be in an environment where there's a culture. I don't know how to use the word culture, but there's an environment where there's an accountability where that person knows they have to fall in line. And you're going to have people that are outliers, thinkers, but at least there's a level of respect and a level of like, all right, we need to get the work in. We need to do that. If you want to be a jerk or whatever, do that on your own time. But when we're here, we're working, we're getting better.
I was going to ask how you got here, Elms College.
Yeah, so that's another. So
some might say the University of Florida of the Northeast.
Yeah, there we go. There you go. Yeah, so I am a graduate student, first year at Springfield College. Springfield College has a strength and conditioning master's. I always tell people, so you can get a master's in a lot of things. You can get a master's in sports performance, sports kinesiology, sports physiology. There's all these different kinds of masters. To me, strength and conditioning masters, where the words say strength and conditioning. It doesn't say something else on your diploma. Like, to me, that was important. Like, I care about this field, and for me, it was important. And then, to be quite honest, like, Springfield is probably the best place for it. So, again, doing things that I'm out of my comfort zone. I've never lived in the Northeast. Like, this year's the most snow I've ever seen in my life, and I've heard it's not even that much snow. Like, so, but what do? Like, you gonna sit there and say, woe is me, and this sucks? Maybe, but get over it real quick and move on and go about your business.
So you came here because you had a master's?
To finish that, yeah. So I ended up at Springfield, and then Coach Pish, men's basketball coach, sent out an email to Springfield saying he's looking for a strength coach, just like at a volunteer basis. At this point, I did not know anything about the area. To be honest, I don't have any family around here. I don't know a soul. I was just saying yes to any email that came through. So Coach Pish sent out an email. I said yes, and then I've been working with the basketball team in the fall, and now here in the spring.
Well, you can kind of progress into now you're the head strength coach in a paid position for every team in the school, right?
Yeah,
talk a little bit about how that or where it's progressed to.
Yeah, so from there, Elms is great. We have that new weight room, and we want to put it to use. And athletics, I think, is great. Like, I think athletics, like, teaches you a lot, obviously if you're willing to learn the lessons that it gives you. So that's why everybody loves their sport for a different reason. Like, right? Like, you love your sport not just because you're good at it, is because you either took the extra swings, or you took the extra shots, or you got the extra jumps in, you took the extra laps in the pool, or whatever it is, you got the extra, whatever, you put in the extra work, and then you saw that you were able to be better because of it. Like, that's the thing. So, like, I think that weight room's awesome, and I think there's a lot of growth and potential, and working with the teams has been absolutely great. So we're obviously, it's a work in progress. Definitely, when you put in a new face at the school, it's a smaller school, it's kind of that feeling out period, but I think everybody's been awesome so far.
Mm-hmm. I want to ask for like maybe a younger high school hooper or something, because you've worked with a lot of high level athletes at this point. If you had to make like 3 pillars or 3 keystone things that someone could do to improve their strength, conditioning, that kind of thing, what would those 3 things be? 3 things to focus on.
So probably, if we haven't learned yet, like, it's probably not going to be the things that you probably think you need to do, right? Like, just jump higher, run faster, like those things. Like, the biggest thing is have work ethic, like have put in the work, but like work doesn't mean, all right, I'm just going to like back to like taking the extra shots for the sake of taking extra shots, right? Like, work means like taking the time to learn. So I actually had this talk to Aiden, was he on here?
Yep.
Okay, so me and Aiden, he talked about Carmelo Anthony being his favorite player. I'm like, okay, great, he's your favorite player, or he was. I go, well, why? I like his game. Okay. Well, what about his game? Well, he does this. Okay, well, what did you have to do to be able to do that? Blank. Like, right? So it's like digging deeper and knowing like that there's more there and you can pull something from it, right? So like if you're a young person in high school, right, and your dream is to play college basketball, whatever, one, I would say, is find a standard to get to, right? So that could be a player that you think your game is kind of like. And, there's a lot of, so this is where like the social media stuff is kind of good, like, right? You can learn from those people and maybe skip some of the mistakes and build yourself up that way. But also it's like, all right, you can only be so tall, you can only jump so high, you can only run so fast. All that work matters. But basketball IQ, right? Like, do you understand the game? Are you able to put yourself in situations where you can make an easy shot, get to an easy shot? Because that's a skill in itself, right? Like, so now, like, Division III, you're playing against guys your own size, your own height, your own similar game. So what are you doing different that they're not? Like, what are you doing? And you hear coach talk about it, it's the mental side, right? So, like, for a young person, a high schooler, like, your biggest advantage, to be honest, if it's truly what you're looking to do, is to learn and continue to learn. Like, so if it's something you care about, learn the game, know the game. Why? Like, you got to have a why, like where you're going at. Look at the people who've done it before you. Look at what the people, like, there's a pathway there, but is it easy? No, like, it's not. So that's a choice you have to make.
What are your goals going forward? I feel like this year, like, you came in not knowing anybody, thinking you're just going to be a student at Springfield College, or thinking that you're going to go with the flow. Now you end up being still obviously a student at Springfield College, but now the head strength conditioning coach at another school in the same area. And how do you, like, in 2-3 years, like, where do you want to be with this strength and conditioning profession? And
so it's funny because, like, I don't actually have, like, crazy goals. Like, I don't, because my thought is each day is hopefully I'm getting better, because you no one can see the future, and if you do things well and you continue to grind, you continue to work and do things the right way, what you'll get in return, you can't even imagine, right? Like I guarantee you, like none of these billionaire guys ever thought they were going to be billionaires. They just wanted to start a company, work really hard, and oh man, I'm really, 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 really rich now. Like right, but they were also working 48 hours straight. You know, they were putting in the work. So like, I know if I am putting the book, you know, effort is a big thing, you know, but I know if I'm putting in my best effort each day, again, like I don't know where I'm going to go. I don't really have, like, it's just, I don't know, the way I don't operate like that way. I know there are people who do like, boom, set a goal, make a plan, get to the goal, and then boom, boom, work your way up. But what if you just got better each day? Like, what if you just improved a little bit each day? Like, things will probably start happening for you.
Do you think that's one of the reasons why you were able to find this opportunity here? Is just because you put in the work every day and just taking everything at face value and ended up working out for you in a big way?
Yeah, so my thought, and this is actually going to sound, it's actually going to sound selfish, but it's actually selfish in like a good way. So if you think about like, all right, do you have a brother or sister or loved one? 3 of them, right? So for any of your like siblings, your family, like what do you want for them? You probably just want them to be happy and healthy, right? So like, that's probably what most people want for their people. So like, if you're not being like the best version of yourself and doing things to be the best version of yourself, like you're probably not fully happy. Like at the end of the day, like you have to sleep in the bed, right? You have to be in that grave, like, right? So it's like, sounds selfish, but most people, I think most people are inherently good people. Like, so like, even if you're being selfish, you're a good person and you're just trying to put your best foot forward in this world. So like, that's kind of like my thought. So I know if I do the right things, things will start to come, things will start to be good. And then it's funny how that kind of works out. Like things have done that since I hiked the trail. Like that's something I'm going to test probably for the rest of my life just to see, you know.
Do you have any super hard things that are on the horizon that will compete with the AT? Something like that? Like hike Everest?
Yeah, so like
Hike
jump out of a
Kilimanjaro.
plane?
So like right now, you know, like I'm in school. I am in here, you know, I'm taking on a lot of teams, but I'm not scared of the challenge. Like, is there one kind of like the AT? I do have some things that I have thought of just for doing it. I'm not going to mention them, but like, yeah. So it's like the other thing, like I had this talk with Coach Fish too. It's like the things that one might say is crazy, and I'm not saying go do crazy things, but like don't be scared to do the work and like explore. Like when an opportunity is given, you don't have to take it, but it doesn't hurt to like do your research, put in the work, see what it's about, and then maybe go jump on it. Like that's what I did to come here. Everybody said I was being from Florida, said like, you're going where? Like, where's that at? Like, isn't that like Simpsons place? Like no joke. Like people said that. Like what? Like where? What?
Is
like,
it Springfield, Mass, the Simpsons, or is it Springfield?
There is 50 different Springfields in all.
That's what I always tell
It's
people.
the running joke that there's just infinite.
Yeah.
So it's just Springfield.
It's just Springfield because you can't pinpoint. They have no idea where it actually is.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you about like your personal strength. Like you said, you lift in the morning and stuff. Do you have a split, or what exactly do you do to stay in shape? And are you chasing something right now in that field personally?
No, so I don't. Where I'm at, it's like I've been lifting since I was like 12. Like lifting like changed, like kind of changed my life. Like I was a fat little kid, and then one day I decided I don't want to be fat anymore, so I'm gonna start eating better and lift weights. And since probably like age like 11 or 12, I probably haven't gone more than 2 or 3 weeks without lifting a weight. So it's just like it's to a point where if I don't lift weights, I feel antsy. Like it's just like, and you can call it like, I think there's like a term for it. It's like lifting dependence or something, whatever. But like I think that's a good, I don't know, like a good thing. Like So like as far as like a right way, wrong way, to be honest, there isn't really a right way or wrong way. It's whatever makes you feel good, but at the same time, there's that challenging. So I always tell people if someone says, "Oh, I don't like doing legs," you know, your body goes to where it's comfortable. So you don't like doing legs because it makes you uncomfortable. It's not that you can't do legs. So that tells me you should probably do legs. You know?
So you think that Chris should start lifting legs?
Huh?
You think Chris should start lifting legs?
Yeah, you shouldn't. Like your total body, and this is stuff you can take away with you your entire life. Like it makes a difference.
Chris thinks his legs are too big to lift.
It's not that I think they're too big. It's just that I hate hitting them because they are actually like a big muscle, and there's so much blood and there's so much pain, and it's just so annoying. I hate hitting legs, dude, so much. But like, I'm gonna probably end up hitting them in the next couple of days. But I've also keep in mind when I said to him I hate hitting legs, we're in the middle of a cut. Me and Ben are cutting right now, so I'm in a calorie deficit. I have 30 minutes of cardio every single day on the stepper, so I'm frying my legs already. So they're already fatigued. So I'm going to go in there and lift like 225 for 5 and then get off of it. Like it's just going to be a hassle. So it's like a lot of compounding factors that make me really not want to hit legs right now.
Sounds like you don't like growth.
No, I mean,
I don't like overreaching. I don't like overreaching.
Nah, he actually is just eating like a caveman. He just eats 6 chicken breasts a day. That's it.
So I definitely have a bias for the weight room, but like teach like the body's like an amazing thing. Like that, it's like super resilient. And you do have control of what it can look like. Now, obviously, there are like disorders or things that that you can't. But like for the most people, is like there are things you can do, and everybody's different based on your goals, right? Like a offensive lineman versus a bodybuilder versus a tap dancer versus like. But I think there's benefit in the weight room for everything, and it doesn't. And it's not just my title. I had this talk with the team, like. Yeah, my title is strength coach, strength and conditioning, but I don't care if you're strong if you can't perform well. Like my goal is to be supportive of the athletics so the athletics can do well. So what's a bigger how I know I did a good job is yes, wins and losses matter, but like are you hurt? Are you feeling good? And you're way in the season and you're not beat up and you're like, whoa, I feel better at this time of year than I ever did. Like those kind of things, I don't care what you're, strength is usually something where people lack, but it's not what I'm here for. Like it's performance.
Are you a fan of the bird dog row? And because Chris has a personal beef with this particular exercise, the bird dog row. So when you're on the bench in a bird dog and you're doing rows, Chris has personal beef with that. So explain to Chris why that could be beneficial, or do you also think that it's the stupidest exercise in the world?
So at the end of the day, so we've talked about intent a lot. At the end of the day, what's the why? So like it's a big thing in strength is if you write a program, like what's your why? Like everything that you write should have a purpose on why you're doing it. If you don't know your why, then you may want to reconsider or look further into it. So
what would the purpose of a bird dog row be? What would the why be? And then Chris would argue that there are better things that you can do that are more optimal than that exercise.
Okay. So
this
optimal,
is a live shift across the board debate.
I don't want it to be a debate. I'd rather be a conversation.
Strength pro versus noob.
It's not optimal. Like, so what I'll say is, okay, one is you have to know your athlete. So why is that person doing it? Like, why do they have it? Are they trying to get their core stronger? Are they working on like muscular coordination? Like, is that just a stepping stone on where they want to end up, right? That's not, maybe they're just doing that because the next block is a lot more. Maybe they built from that. They've come a long way. Like, so there's a lot of reasons why you have something. And it's maybe they struggle getting like that lengthened position. Like, so there's a lot of things for that. It depends on your perspective, right? What your goal is and your why behind it. If you're trying to bulk up, probably not a good move. If you're trying to work on coordination, you're not trying to get like your nervous system all fired up. You're not trying to load a bunch of weight. You're not trying to do that. Maybe you're recovering. Maybe they're doing that part of recovery day. So you don't know. So it's
There's
hard.
nuance. I'll give them some nuance.
Like-
I would still say core stability can be trained in many different, better ways, but like outside of the
Correct.
recovery thing, I think I like that actually.
what-
That was actually a great answer. That
better
like
way,
someone who's
but-
injured or
But what if it's just a building block?
that too. I can see
Like,
To bird dog.
that. Heavier
barbell
bird
row?
dog rows.
so no. Now you can throw in like, single leg stuff. You can throw in carries. You can throw in other things. There's different ways to challenge your core, right? There's a million ways. Like your body stands upright. You cut, you drive, you do anything. It's you need core stability to do it. Like if not, you're leaking force. Like so. It depends on what your goals are, and that's the thing. Like that's where people don't realize what strength and conditioning actually does. Is what a coach actually does. It's like, no, we're 10 steps ahead of you. We're programming that today, so that in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 months from now, you'll be so much stronger and you'll be dominating the court or whatever it is. So it may seem kind of dumb, but I think the marks of like a good coach is they know the why behind what they're doing.
I will say, when I attacked the bird dog row on the podcast, I was viewing it from a much stricter lens of like strictly hypertrophy, which it is not a good exercise for. But
Yeah, so I'll agree with that. Like, but hypertrophy is not,
everybody's
so,
goal. So
So performance, right? Like we already know that like the most bulkiest dude's not the fastest dude, but you do need a little bit of muscle. Like you do need to be able to perform. So it's just your lens, right? So like yoga, if you want to be the best Pilates yoga instructor, you need to be flexible, and so getting a bunch of hypertrophy probably won't help you. Like so it just kind of depends on your goals.
What about the left-right split? No, not
Well,
joking.
okay.
Me and Chris have a little joke
big.
where I say that he does a left-right split, where it's just like one day you do
Right
left
arm.
tricep,
Oh.
bicep, shoulder.
I don't actually do this, by the way. This is
Doesn't matter. I mean, I don't judge. So like my thing is I don't judge like what people do as long as they know why they're doing it and they have a goal of where they want to go, right? Like so like that's kind of the big thing. So I don't like there are coaches that do put their like stake in the ground. This is the way it needs to be done. Like no. Like for me it's like one is what I can, from my knowledge base and the work I've done and learned from people I've learned from, what I've taken, talking to the sport coaches, like there's a lot of things that happen behind the scenes that probably athletes don't know, but it's like using all the information I have and my ability to coach that to make sure you do it correctly. Like that's kind of what I'm going off of. Like, yeah, there might be a good exercise out there that I'm not that familiar with, so I may not put it. I'll learn more about it, and then maybe next time we'll put that in there.
Practice is at 1 today, right?
I think so. I don't know. That's your job to be
yeah,
at
it's
practice.
definitely your job.
I think I'm actually gonna. What time is it?
Currently 10:41.
Yeah, I'm gonna just pause the thing and just.
I was going to ask about your lift outside of strength and conditioning. Like,
Yeah.
what do you have going?
makes
going
hot
on
pot.
outside? He was
No.
what?
He makes hot pot.
No,
Hot
I
pot?
did that for New Year's. There's nobody in town. One of my buddies at Springfield, he is Taiwanese, and for New Year's we had a group. So like a lot of the international students were the ones that was still around on campus. So we did like they did like a Chinese hot pot, and they made it. It was really cool. It was good. It's awesome.
So far.
But yeah, so back to your question. Yeah, what am I doing? Like, so I never answered it, and the thing is I preface it with this: I'm older than every probably student here, so like back to like goals, right? Like, I know that's a good thing. The more you lift, the more you get to know your body. Where you're like, okay, that's the difference between a soreness and maybe something might lead to pain. Right? So it's like, for me, I do it in buckets. So as in like, all right, I know I need to hit this, I need to hit this. So like, all right, I know I need to hit chest. So I'm not trying to max out. I'm not trying to get super strong, super bulky or anything like that. I'm just trying to feel good, move good. So I tried to do some sprinting. Like sprinting is actually really good for you. I tried to do some jumping. I try to jump. I also hit bench. I hit legs. I try to hit everything. And then lately I've been messing around with doing things fast versus doing things slow, just to see what my body kind of feels like. So maybe going lighter but doing them very fast, like how that feels versus going super heavy. But I kind of just play around based off like where my body's kind of actually at, and I'm really good at like I've been doing it since for so long where I know like all right, I need to get cardio in because I don't want to do cardio, right? Like so back to what I was saying before, if you don't want to do it, that's your probably body tell you may need to do it. So like I take those same cues for myself. It's like I don't feel like doing legs. Well, I need to go do legs, and I go do legs. So I just did something hard that I didn't want to do, and I did it, and I feel a lot better because of it. That happens almost daily.
Yeah, that whole evolution of lifting, I've noticed that happening with me too. Like my first year lifting, if I look back on it now, I've done a complete 180 with basically everything. I went from going heavy, 5 to 9 reps, then went back to like 15, and then you go deep stretch, and then you just sort of like bounce around because there's new literature and new stuff coming out all the time, and I'm just constantly changing how I'm lifting and how my body feels. It's constant, never stops.
So here's like probably the cool thing about spring, like what I enjoy about being a strength student, is strength and conditioning. It's kind of a smaller, like in Florida, it's just not a thing. Like when I told people like, oh, I'm getting a master's in strength and conditioning, they're like, personal training? I'm like, no, it's not that. But like, that's what they thought. Like in the Northeast, good thing in the Northeast, it's like, it's really awesome that there's like a lot of people who like are around it and know it. So for me, it's really cool to be around like-minded people who like strength and conditioning, who have that same kind of passion. So those are my like classmates, professors. So the cool thing with like being around those kind of people is we all have different perspectives and stuff, but we also kind of like try things. Oh, cool. Like I'm having this problem with this athlete. This is what I did with him. They're like, well, yeah, but I did this when I had this athlete and it worked really well. Okay, cool. Tell me more about it. And then it turns into this thing where you're just kind of like learning from each other and you're taking it, because they're future strength coaches, super high level strength. There's strength coaches from Springfield College at every level. Like, I mean, like everywhere. It's pretty insane. And that was part of the reason. But like, that's the thing. It's like, all right. So the cool thing is you did the research behind it. So you're not just like, oh, okay, I'm doing a curl. Well, what is that curl doing for me? Like, or whatever. And you're staying up to date. Mm-hmm. And it changes things, right? Like, you care more. Like Arnold Schwarzenegger, I don't know if you ever watched Pumping Iron. You ever watched it? Documentary back in like the 70s about
I know how it is, but
it's free on YouTube.
Yeah, free on YouTube.
Don't happen.
But he talks about like when he lifts, he would like visualize his muscles and stuff like that, and that's helped with gains. Well, like doing that level of, we've talked about intention a lot, like doing that helps a lot because now you focus on your form, you focus on your how hard you need to go, and you know what it feels like. So like being in it for each rep like matters. Like, and you see it from all the great ones. Like it's just what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Got anything else?
All right, at the moment, no.
No. So go read the book if you haven't. I think it's a good book for people. Challenge. Like I would say, if you're out there, like don't just read things, listen to things. Like that's great. That's a great place to start. But put it to the test to see if it works. Take it to action. I guarantee you'll probably get more in return than what you think, and you're capable of like way more than what you think.
Ask them the last question. Good. What's one piece of advice you'd give to your younger self? It's kind of the last question we asked.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what I would tell my younger self, and I've thought about this a lot, because I'm a very different person than what I used to be. Prior, they said if you would have met me probably like 5 to 10 years ago, like I could get by on my brains. Like I could like go rock, like just skate by, and that's what I did in business. Like just skate by, get your bills paid, get taken care of, and that's it. But like what I tell, so I know you in the future, I always tell my friends that have kids and those things. It's like the biggest, I feel, and like I said, I might look at this 10 years from now to have a different answer. But I feel like the biggest gift that you could give to like your kid, besides the love, besides those things, is teach them like work ethic, like teach them effort, like teach them that they earned their grade. They weren't just smart and just figured out to get an A. Is like teach them those kind of things, and that'll take you a long way. Like, don't teach them like, oh, okay, cool, you made a ball. Like, no, you work towards making that ball. Like, teach them those things. So like my younger self, I would just teach. Yeah, I would say work on developing a work ethic. Like, that would be the biggest takeaway.
The book talked a lot about that as well.
Yeah.
And I talked about that before when you were asking me about the book, about that mindset of continued growth and earning versus just being naturally gifted can take you a lot farther.
Yeah, like are your grades a reflection of how smart you are or how much work you did to get that grade?
I think it could be both. I think like there could be a class like for you. You said you're far along, so like you might not be put in the class that you have today at 12, and that is because you put in the work, like in leading up to that, but not necessarily into studying for that course. If that makes sense.
So I'll push back on that. So I think it's a reflection of effort and it's a reflection of your choices. So whatever grade you get back, it's nobody else's fault but your own. It's not the professor. Yeah, that's an easy out to blame the professor, but what does that solve, right? So you get back to the drawing board and say, okay, this is how I studied to earn this grade. What do I have to change? What choices do I have to make? If you're happy with the grade, make the same choices. I don't know if you're whatever, but I think it's a reflection of the effort and the choices you made to get that grade.
That's fair.
You would say like different people based on natural ability have different baselines. Like if I put in no effort, I make it a 70, but someone else make it a 90. And so then like the level of effort.
What does that matter though? Like that's what I'm saying is like you can't fix that. You can't change that. So like, all right, yeah. So that person naturally might be a 70. That guy might be naturally a 90. That guy gets a 90. That person who's got a 70 busts his ass, works really hard, and gets a 95. So who's the better person? Like
you said, reflection of your choices.
yeah. So like, yeah, are we all born with innate things? Absolutely. But it's like, like we live in a great time. Like it's a great time to be on this earth. Like there's a lot of good things. Like we live in a good country. Like there's a lot of good out there, and there's a lot of things like that you can get to. Like there were times where it's like there was a time on this earth where you're just trying to live the day, like try not to die. Like so it's like like you'd be surprised where you can get to by just putting in a little work. Like a lot of work will get you even further, so why not do it?
Sure. Raps?
That's wraps.
Thank you for making the time this morning.
Thanks for having me. This is awesome.
Thank you, sir.
Yep, nice to meet you, sir.